Alan. It's been about a week or so. It's about 6:45, so I don't have to make mom's dinner yet. But I just wanted to write something. I live in Oregon, and I'm a TI target individual. And the only reason I want to put this out there is because I literally went 30 years at that time. 2017 is when it finally started. Some answers started. Had to learn to walk again and all this. And I didn't realize for 30 years that I had been under some kind of experimentation. I mean, people know when they internally have some weird kind of like a depression, but nothing ever psychotic, nothing ever. I didn't have crazy ideas. I was religious and raised Pentecostal, so that can, but part of this program is to the wireless stuff is to maybe have a negative, whether through holiness, and they use religious scripts a lot too, to make it like maybe guilt inducing it. The religion is kind of more in a negative fashion, like guilt producing or doubt. Promotes a lot of doubt. So whatever your beliefs are, they use your beliefs against you. And so they will use religion. And a lot of TI stuff will use religion, which is great because it can help and give some inspiration, get some hope. But they will use those beliefs and twist them almost like the imitation of Christ, trying to put a bunch of guilt and shame. And it's a negative approach, holiness, or it's to use your beliefs. It doesn't have, whether it's Christian, Judaism, Islam, Hindu, aliens, it just, whatever your beliefs are, because of synthetic telepathy. And again, for me, it was questions and doubts. I hated doubt because this program produced what is known as a form of kind of OCD called scrupulosity, which is, it makes you constantly think it. Now, I don't know if they have the ability to hit the basal ganglia wirelessly, like a hiccup in the brain, to where you can't just have a thought and let it go. It just keeps on hitting. Like, did I lock the door? Did I lock the door? Did I lock the door? Or, is this the right thing to do? Is this you replay an event from your day over in your mind over and over? Did I do this right? Was this moral? Was this a good thing? Scrupulosity is just OCD, but with religious overtones. Was this right? Is this pleasing God? And it's not just Christians that can have this. Judaism has it. People in Islam has it. It's just when that part of the brain gets hit, has a hiccup, and it makes you have the same thought or an obsession. And religion is a very obvious, can be an obsession for some, and it, for history, it's almost been accepted in a popular obsession, to the point of almost it has been for centuries almost been promoted as a good obsession. Like monks are being holy, nuns are holy. The more extreme, in religion, the better. And the good thing, and they hated psychology, and that's why there's always been this tension between worldly psychology and Christianity or Judaism, even Islam. It's like, well, what's going to be the source of truth? Is it going to be biblical or secular? That whole battle. And of course, there's Christian psychologists, which tries to have a more optimistic, Robert Schuller, Joel Osteen. God wants you happy in this world. He accepts you, he's for you, he's pulling for you. But then if you look at the old Christianity of the imitation of Christ, the most popular book out besides the Bible for all these centuries, and it's masochistic. It's very, some of these holiness groups have made their Christianity so harsh and otherworldly, which in some ways, it's great that they take it serious, and people want something serious, not a bullshit faith, But sometimes they can be even Oh, you said bullshit, or oh, you had a beer, or oh, you swore, and who's going to be attracted to that? Because that's just another. It's like in the New Testament, the thing about the law versus grace. It's just another millstone hanging around the neck. It doesn't enhance your life as a human being or as a Christian. Um, Memorizing all these verses, that I do everything right, be ye perfect as your Father in heaven is perfect, and and it's like, if you love me, obey my commandments. It's easy to find these verses, to pull them out and to use them in a way. In fact, I remember doing a sermon once where the only verse I could find that was love your neighbor as yourself. Well, then twist it to mean, well, obviously you're supposed to love your neighbor, so you should love yourself too. You know, and whether the hermeneutics of that is good or bad, most Orthodox Calvinists will say that's a sham of a interpretation. And I've noticed that Calvinist Christians are more. They were the minority for centuries. It was the Orthodox, but now since 1800s, Methodism, Arminian Christian theology, God loves everybody and wants everyone to choose Him. Arminian theology has taken and been more popular. Billy Graham stuff, most evangelicals, and most apologetics, people who are into proving faith, God, the existence of God, creation, evolution, the soul, free will in the soul. There was I don't know if it's Christianity Today, but you can look it up. And it was like, in theology, Calvin, R.C. Sproul, and Calvinism, John MacArthur, they've becoming more popular. But one theologian or one author, I don't know if it's Christianity Today or a different magazine, but was writing how Calvinists just become assholes because they think, well, I'm chosen, and it really gets to their ego. Even though they'll say theologically, I know it's not me, it's His predestined election before the foundations of the earth. But Arminians, and especially, are into apologetics and are just nicer. They can put themselves in other people's shoes and, is this nice? Is this right to do? And here it comes with the TI program. I came from an evangelical town like Dallas, and the fact that for 30 years, I was their laugh, their scapegoat, and constantly in pain. At least they gave me pain meds. I'm glad for that. That was kind. But then to realize I shouldn't have had to have gone through this pain in the first place. I broke my arm in football in 10th grade. And they just fucking, yeah, we need some money at the hospital, or let's take some eeny, meeny, miny, mo. And from the Calvinist viewpoint, they'll say, oh, God in His providence chose me on my most unluckiest day ever to put me in Project Satan. And I was studying for the ministry, so that's nice. It's very nice to know that while 2 years before I'm done with high school and going in as trying to study for the ministry, go to the Bible college, the Christians of Dallas decided to put me in Project Satan, as Robert Duncan would say. It's Medusa, Satan, and all this. And of course, when you're religious, you just know that your side is starting to feel deadened, like necrotic, and it's hard to feel emotions. And it becomes split. And then you find out after 30 years, it's Havana syndrome. You're getting hit with these DEWs, directed energy weapons, and then they hit with V2K. And they're just trying, your religious evangelical town is trying to get rid of you because now it's embarrassing that and that they've kept it quiet. They let you think it was just a sickness or a painful ailment that nobody could fix. And then it's like, no, they put you were part of a program. They kept it from you, the knowledge of that it was arranged, and made you suffer for 30 years and pay for all this medicine and go through all this shit. Your entire life has been altered because of it. Every day, and having to get this and having to, it's just like, and then probably telling the people of the town, well, let's make them more religious. And it's like I was studying for the ministry in the first place. I studied apologetics. I was most friendliest in my class, most likely to teach creationism. Anyway, if you are, I encourage to not let those shitty thoughts, because I've had a lot, but I'm sure you have too. If you're part of this program, you know exactly that it can. They will put this synthetic shit in your head, and just you can do it, knowing what it is. For me, it's better knowing than not knowing. Not knowing and just praying, Lord, tell me what it is. What after 30 years, every day, you know. Hey, Herbert, I didn't see you there. I think God is using this to identify the wheat and the tares. I could be wrong, but it seems the goal of so much suffering is for the person is either persevere or give up. It's, you know, it's like that's the Calvinist. It's not the Calvinist yet. When I see persevere, I think it's a shitty thing because the old Christian viewpoint is the Orthodox Calvinist is like, oh, well, if they give up, then suddenly they're doomed and hellish. And it's like these are Christians putting other Christians in this program, trying to get them to give up, but trying to be all Orthodox. Oh, well, they're in hell. It's like, fuck them. Fuck them. You know? But they're still very spiritual and religious. I've noticed, I don't think my videos get out there because they're not as I mean, they're inspirational in that they're honest, but I know V2K, I'm not giving up. I know. And what are we going to do? If you have V2K, you know what I'm talking about. You have to hear them all the time. But they've been doing this for years too, all the time. And it's just, I'm sure it's just annoying as hell to do this every day, to be, you know, talking and yapping to me. And I don't know how many TIs there are. Some people will say, if you know what I mean, Herbert, in these, I mean, I only have about 5 or 6, at the most 10 people that I come across that pretend, you know, in today's right now, because the target individuals that were around 2 years ago in the chat rooms aren't there anymore. I think they just gave up, or they rotate new TIs in different chat rooms, and they have people in fusion centers pretend to be other ones. And, you know, and as far as that, I don't even think people are able to see my videos because with OCD and with religion, I talk a lot about it. And that's why it uses your beliefs either against you, and it tries to get people to say, well, we're trying to bring that person closer to the Lord and use this, but at the same time, we get money if we can torture this person and get them to give up. And it's like, fuck them. If anything, I mean, the problem of evil is such a big problem. And to find out it wasn't just going through some suffering, but it was the Christian people in your town that are doing this to you. I didn't have to be born or go through this, but the religious people in the town where I'm from chose to do this to me. For 30 years, they could have fixed it. They could have told me about it. But after 30 years, but at least now, thank God, I don't have to. There's some good things. I mean, knowing what's going on is way better than not knowing. And I look upon the people, and I mean, let's just say it's not, hey, I'm not going to do something crazy wild, because one of the things of this thing is when you get hit by dues, in my case, it was 30 years where they hit the side, my heart, and I wanted it healed, taken care of, or found out what caused it. And it's like, Lord, will you show me what it, you know, in the next world? But thank God for Dr. Matt and Ella, and that just to know what it is and to realize the real religion in America is greed. And that's why Jesus was saying, you cannot love both God and money, because one's going to give out. And this is not even, it's a no-brainer. They're not loving both. They're making a choice to purposely torture people. And then on one hand, they're going to claim family values, you know, Christianity. And yet they give money and hope nobody finds out that they're also getting money for torturing innocent people. It's like Francis Collins. Francis Collins from the NIH, great person. I loved him because he was into Christian apologetics. He defended the faith. He was very intelligent. The Human Genome Project, one of the best scientists in the land. Him and his opponent, Craig Venter, but just brilliant people. But then you find out also that being part of the NIH, like Fauci, they're part of some of the worst experiments. Like one of them having babies, premature babies. I saw this in Public Citizen, so I don't think it's slander, but it's taking babies. Duke University, the University of Alabama, Yale University, these researchers taking premature babies and hooking up, rising the oxygen or lowering the oxygen, but then manipulating the machines to where it looks like the oxygen's good, but playing with the machines beforehand to where they're actually getting a lower amount of oxygen just to see how much oxygen or how many breaths it can take before they pass, and like the rate of death rate, and calling it science. Well, we got to learn for the sake of science, torturing premature babies. And University of Alabama, Birmingham. Now, I don't, some of these things, because a lot of the internet's just obviously bullshit. But also, you wouldn't think that the TI program is real either. I mean, they have done so many things because of experimentation that is just morally anathema. And knowing what we are going through, nothing surprises you. The level of what the syphilis, the Tuskegee Airmen, the radium girls in their oatmeal, and then Bill Clinton apologizing for it, saying it was wrong back then. Hopefully we won't return to it. It was always wrong. People should be compensated. And then it's still going on. Barack Obama, 2011, to his credit, started the bioethics thing in 2011 and 2012, and it's still going on. And the two women, there's the guy in the middle, I forget his name right now, Andrew something, but on one side it's Anthony Fauci's wife, Dr. Christine Grady, and on the other side of the guy is the lady who's in the news right now for the University of Biden, Penn State and Biden, Amy Gutmann, the old president of the University of Pennsylvania. And she's the one that helps raise money from China and to start the Penn Biden Center. She's a real go-getter, one of the Forbes top 50th go-getters. And yet she's in the news now because of that. So all these connections between Fauci and his wife, and on the other side, it's Penn State's old president of the college, or University of Pennsylvania, Amy Gutmann. And it's ironic because it's like, it's Havana syndrome. This is all Havana syndrome. This has been going out for so long. I don't know if it's an alibi, but it's like they had to blame, people are getting hit with these weapons, target individuals. So they have to blame it on, maybe it's another country. You know what I'm talking about, Herbert? It's maybe it's China, maybe it's Russia, maybe it's, and finally after 4 or 5 years, the CIA guy said, well, now we know it's not a foreign government. He admitted it. The CIA, to his credit, admitted it wasn't a foreign government. And that's where you think hope. Leslie Stahl would say, so if it's not a foreign government, that means it's us. But she didn't say that. But it's, wink, wink. It's like, yeah, we know. And a lot of the older generation TIs are probably dead. They seem to ramp it up every year for me to the point where it's unbearable. Herbert, I put on my title here, I live in Oregon. And I don't do them myself. But I talked to a counselor, and it's like, maybe I can sometime. But in Oregon, all drugs, and I mean all of them, have been decriminalized. And it's not that I want people to become druggies or this and that. But after years of having these direct energy stuff and hit you in the head or in the heart, obviously it's done to create a type of depression and pain and suffering. And if wherever they're at, they're going through. I just know in Oregon now, and this year, and this stuff is already legal. But I know they have like all out of the stuff. I know ketamine is going to they're going to have therapy, but it's going to be legal this year. They just have to do it with a doctor and a therapist, but to sit there for 6 hours. But all this stuff, if a person has a drug habit, they can move to Oregon and not worry about getting locked up, not being caught in a hooskow because they've had to go to pain meds or heroin because they're in pain, and their doctor might have kicked them off because, it's like, well, they're in pain, they need something, and then the doctors kind of kick them off of pain meds hoping that they off them. It's like, well, instead of that, why don't you just move to Oregon? Just mushrooms, psychedelic, everything. I think maybe you might get at the worst $100. It's not that I want people to be on junk or drugs, but it's like, if your own government's trying to screw you over and off with you, then at least in Oregon, our government here said, well, we're not going to punish you we're just going to, at worst, maybe give you $100 ticket. And people can find their bearings. Either they won't be treated like lepers like in other parts of the world. And that's where I think I'm glad to be part of, I believe people should have the right to do what they want as long as it's not hurting somebody else. And that's a real issue. I'm not going to go into the Republican versus Democrat thing. I believe in being a free thinker, but I also was studying to be a minister myself. So I've been on both sides of the fence on that one. So I hope they're not, but we just know whether it's Tuskegee or these others, they have gone through so much. And with Havana syndrome, it's obviously they're feeling the pressure that they have to make this up. And the guy, and that Kevin McCarthy and on Fox News and Tucker Carlson, where they're talking about a new church committee. And I noticed PAX International is talking about a new church committee too. And it's like, that's what we're hoping for. A new FBI committee where the CIA, and it's funny because one of the CIA's that got Havana syndrome, Marco Polo, it's like a Greek name. He's saying, well, we shouldn't be looking into the CIA right now and find dirt. And it's like, he was also one of the main guys talking about how he's got Havana syndrome. So 2 years ago, he's all over the news talking about Havana syndrome. He's getting hit with all these things from Russia. And now he was on the news for saying that we shouldn't have a church committee looking into the CIA because it might turn bad. Well, of course it's going to turn bad. That's why we're looking. We know what they're doing. And it's illegal and gross. And the idea of our government creating a torture to torture innocent people, and to do this in a way to where it makes it hard intentionally. They designed and spent time to try to find weaponry and torture where it's hard to prove or find guilt because it's wireless. I mean, I remember when Rumsfeld in 2001, he said $2,000 trillion was missing. And about a year ago, they did it again. Another $2 trillion missing that they can only account for 39% of the Pentagon's budget. 39%. So the other 60% is where'd it go? And it's just like, well, they're doing this with it. They're doing stuff for the elite and giving a lot of money to Ukraine. But the everyday people that are, it's just ridiculous. So I really don't, January 6th, they act like it's a big thing, but I think people should, I'm amazed at the arrogance that these leaders, Republican and Democrat, just continuously, day after day, allow otherwise good people not just to fall in the cracks, but they literally dig the holes for these people to fall into, like torture, and then get money when the people fall in. They get money for the torture, but they're still religious. So it's just like, I do hope that God will just, or even just people, pissed off people, um, start voicing our opinion, and whether through video. I'm so glad for Ella and Dr. Matt and Derek and Frank Allen and just targeted justice, the groups out there making it. I'm trying to do with these things, but um, it's to get the news out there. It'd be nice to have something outside and outdoors, because I have no guarantee that anybody outside of Fusion Center is even watching these videos. I mean, it'll say, I don't. It's like I'm kind of in the back seat now, because they don't even try to make it look like that people are watching my videos, because it's so. I know, it's like, what are we doing this for? Like, they try to get the idea like they're trying to bring me closer to some form of Christianity, and I studied for the ministry while they were doing this to me. And that's one thing I spent my entire life on, is studying with scrupulosity, apologetics, philosophical theology. You couldn't find people who spent more time obsessed just thinking about it, and whether it was a liberal approach, the conservative, and yet not telling people about it, because I literally thought for 30 years at that time that that's what caused my side pain, the stress of all this. And I just thought, well, I don't want to tell anybody about it because it might hurt them too, the stress of this back and forth, faith and doubt. And it wasn't until V2K that I found out, oh shit, it wasn't based on the stress of all this theology. They were doing it to me on purpose to test out the Savannah syndrome torture shit. And the people in my town just went along with it, trying to get money, hoping. And some lady, one of the cop ladies, yelled at me, "I hope you kill her, you bitch." I went to the cops for help once in my life, and they said, "Well, you need to go," and it was because of this program. And it was like, well, maybe you should go see see a counselor and all this. And it was just like, they had already set it up before I even got home. There was a counselor calling my phone, and they had it all set up. And then, of course, 2 days later, then I fall out the window, and then just learn to walk again. And then I found, and then they start V2K, not just the normal through the headboards and the next door. It's, you just know it's technology and somebody's fucking with you. You know it's not some crazy psychological thing, but it's just when you explain it to people, it just sounds like you're nuts. So, but now I know what it is. We just don't know how many is real, how many TIs, and I won't go into the who all is and who all isn't, and I just assume they all really are. But I'm not going to give a bunch of money, because I don't. I used to work all these jobs for years, but now I'm not working. So anyway, so my V2K people, they get pretty tired. So I hope you're doing okay, Herbert. I was just sharing a lot of this shit and just going on. And I encourage people, if they are having a hard time with stuff, think about Oregon. Even if it's just an airline ticket for a day, because in Oakland and Colorado's got psychedelics. And I've never really tried, but I'd rather them try it, because it can rewire your brain, your heart, your feelings. I haven't tried it, but I watched it on YouTube, and a lot of people swear to God by it. It's the one thing that helped them. So anyway, Herbert, I'm going to go. I'm going to make my mom some dinner. I always do this around 7:15 or so. Actually, a little before, but she's going to be here. And she already made most of it. I just have to warm it up. So anyways, just trying to look at my little notes. And it was funny, because when they were in Dallas, where I'm from, and Salem now, they were chanting, "Drain the swamp. Drain the swamp," chanting it. And you're thinking, there's nothing more disgusting, more gross, more swamp-like than the idea of taking a child or a teenager and putting something, when they break an arm, putting something in their body when they're on anesthesia, asleep, on the table, not tell them, not give them informed consent, just to torture them, to see how long it takes for them to die or to be tortured. And yet it's a very religious town and drain the swamp and the whole bit. And yet they're getting money for this. And they were hoping that I would die before I found out about this program or the targeted individual. But I survived. I survived, broke my arm, landed like this on my arms, broke my leg, my scars right there, because they had to operate because I landed like this. And it broke here, broke there. And I had, and in that time, not one person in Dallas, not with all their moral character, nothing, none of them. So I'm just glad to know it. I'm just glad to know what the truth is. There are wonderful people. I spent my entire life in Dallas mostly, and they were good. I literally thought good people. I just didn't. I mean, I was treated pretty good. Police, doctors, city hall. I thought they were pretty good people. I just didn't know the entire 30 years that I was in the, in pain. They gave me pain meds, but I didn't know that they put me on a program on purpose to get money and on purpose for the purpose of they want to use me as a guinea pig to see how long I can suffer and other TIs, not just me. But all right, Herbert, I hope you're doing good. I'm just glad to know what the truth is because it does make me happier. Not knowing sucks. So, and to know there's other groups of people out there. And there are wonderful people of faith that do help, that are real. And the real McCoys are, when they're there, they're special. So, okay, my friend Herbert, and feel free, just if I'm on again, I hope to talk to you and some of the other people I know. So, all right, Herbert. And other TIs out there, you have a good week, and I'll talk to you in a week or a few days or something like that, okay? All right, Herbert, I'll talk to you again, and I'll see you later, okay? Okay. There, and okay.